Welcome back to Weekend Today in New York on this Saturday morning. Well, world history changed dramatically 50 years ago this month. That's when Fidel Castro overthrew the Cuban government, marking an era of conflict between the U.S. and that island nation. A special exhibition chronicles the last half-century with documents and memorabilia from both Cuba and the U.S. Linda BAQUERO takes us there in this week's Visiones.
This is a public affairs presentation from For New York, Visiones.
Here's Fidel Castro in 1955 walking through Central Park on a visit to raise funds for his movement. This is from 1959 as he waved to crowds from the Hotel Pennsylvania on another trip to New York. And this is Fidel Castro with his revolutionary leaders, including Che Guevara on the right. On January 3rd, 1959, this is what the U.S. Embassy in Havana looked like. This man carrying a sign, "Long live a free Cuba," on the day the U.S. broke relations with his country. These are just some of the images chronicling a half-century since the Cuban Revolution, now on display at Manhattan's Center for Cuban Studies, which opened in 1972.
It started as an effort to try and bring people information directly from Cuba, because really the relations were so bad then.
Levinson has made hundreds of trips to Cuba, bringing back posters like this, which says "Free Elian," and other memorabilia. She's also preserved newspaper and magazine articles from both the United States and Cuba.
We've also tried to show that both the media in the United States and in Cuba have added to the conflict and added to the problems, and at the same time helped in the solutions.
Every time a new U.S. president takes office, many Cuban Americans wonder whether the U.S. policy towards Cuba will change. That's why here at the Cuban Art Space, they're giving out these postcards with a message they want to send directly to President Obama.
Saying, please let us travel to Cuba and lift the embargo. What I hope people will take away from the exhibit is the absurdity of our policy toward Cuba. I mean, it hasn't worked.
No matter where you stand on the issue of Cuba, the exhibition is a trip through time. For the next week, there's also a documentary film festival at the Maisels Cinema in Harlem, featuring films made in Cuba or about Cuba. The exhibition, which is called The United States and Cuba, 50 Years of Unresolved Conflict, will be at the Center for Cuban Studies on West 29th Street in Manhattan until February 15th. Linda BAQUERO for Visiones.